Right, so recording in progress. So hello and welcome to the Soul Plan intro webinar. My name is Marilyn Devonish, for those of you that I haven't met before, and a couple of reasons why I'm doing this. Number one, I love soul plans and they are absolutely fabulous. I first had my soul plan read in November 2013. When I did it the right way, as in used my full birth name. You'll probably hear me talking about throughout this, your full birth name, and that's what I would have said if you registered for the 5-day challenge. I didn't do it with my full birth name. I just used Marilyn Devonish because that's the name that I go by. Soul plan was interesting, a little bit like a horoscope, I'll be honest. But halfway through the practitioner training, I suddenly went, hold on, why do you keep saying full birth name? And then Blue Marsden, the person that I trained with, explained it's about using the name on your birth certificate. And I was like, I didn't do that. So I got the second copy of, so thankfully they were able to get me one from the office. They got me the second copy of my soul plan report, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. It's like, whoa, that describes my whole life. So I just love them for that in terms of the insight and the aha moments, as I call them. I'm also going to be running a soul plan, my first soul plan practitioner certification course for those who would like to add this as a string to their bow. So you can use it as a standalone service for your clients or use it as a diagnostic for whatever else you're doing, whether that's coaching, training, consultancy, teaching. You might even be a CEO or a manager and you want to get a deeper insight into your staff. This is permission based. You don't just go and run off and do your staff soul plan without asking them. But there are so many ways that you can do it. So I'm going to be running my first practitioner next month. So I want to, get into the vibe of the soul plan, have a bit of a practice, reacquaint myself with the teaching energy of the soul plan. So a few reasons there. I thought we might open with a question. How's your soul? Because it's not really, well, it depends. Unless you're in this line of work, it's not necessarily a question that you would ask on a regular basis. How's your soul? So that's one I would say, just have a think about. Notice the first thing that comes to mind. Go with your intuition. If you feel so inclined, you can put that you can put your response in the chat. You can put it in the Q&A. It will be interesting to hear your responses to what is often quite an unusual question. So first off, how's your soul? In terms of the overview of what we're going to be covering today, actually my third reason, my brain is like, there's another reason. My third reason for running this webinar is so that people who are doing the 5-day challenge have this information, because I then suddenly thought yesterday, so hold on a minute, I'm doing the 5-day challenge. We've got separate elements. So we start with the worldly and spiritual challenges. We're looking at your worldly and spiritual goals. We're looking at worldly and spiritual talents. Then we're looking at your soul destiny. And then we're doing the soul plan, blueprint, DNA, guided meditation, and some Q&A, maybe a bit of therapy, a quick bit of Huna and Access to bring things into alignment. I'm like, there is no room for explaining what the soul plan is, what the aspects are, how it works and all that. So I thought, let me just do it as a standalone. So it's there. I will add it into the Soul Plan Challenge portal. For those of you who are not yet taking part but you'd like to, it is www.bit.ly/soul-plan-challenge. So this means then that you can watch this in your own time, and when we get started with the challenge, which is a couple of hours from now, if you're watching this in real time, we'll just go straight into let's get started. I'll do a brief overview, of course, because there'll be people coming in at different times, but we'll do an expanded version here. So that's also the reason. So we've talked about your questions, and we've talked about the chat and the Q&A. So chat is open, Q&A is private, and you'll see those two elements there at the top. So let's get started with what is a soul plan. So originally developed by someone called Dr. Frank Alper. It uses the sound vibration of your name. So there is an element of numerology. There is also an element of the Hebrew approach to the vibration of words and letters and vowels and sounds. And it is about what's on your birth certificate, because the premise of that is the name that you were given at birth, whether it was changed very quickly, maybe you have had, for example, I did a soul plan reading with a friend of mine. We did it live on Facebook. It's really quite interesting because he's like, nothing can floor me. nothing leaves me speechless. I'm like, oh, let's do your soul plan reading then. And he was completely floored and speechless. But what I didn't know, because he gave me two names, I was like, okay, and you always do it on your birth name. And if you do a second name, it's an overlay. You can also do a soul plan reading on the name of your business, for example. So I did the first soul plan reading and then did the overlay name. It's like, wow, this is really interesting. And it turns out he was adopted. His name is Sifu Boggy, for those of you who know him, but he was adopted, and it was really interesting to put those two soul plans together. But we start with the birth name because that's the energy that you held when you came into this lifetime. So as I said there, it's based on Hebrew gematria. It focuses on 7 aspects, and we're going to do an overview of those aspects today. And it highlights also what stops and blocks you. And that's what shows up in your soul plan report as the soul plan challenges. So just had a little thought. Let me just check that. Yes, it's moving. So first of all, let's have a quick chat about how can your soul plan help? Because it all right, sounds very interesting, but how can it actually help you? It's a couple of things. It can reveal those blocks and challenges and give you some insight into how those can be overcome when you do a one-to-one soul plan reading. You can translate, once you know what those challenges are, once you know what the blockages are, you can then start to translate those into strengths and use them as a help rather than a hindrance. You can also, once you're aware, enhance your natural talents, because there will be times where people suspect something or are drawn to something. It almost doesn't even make sense to them sometimes. And then when they see their soul plan report, it's like an affirmation, a confirmation that, wow, now it all makes sense. You can identify your worldly goals, your spiritual goals, your soul destiny. And that's almost like having a blueprint and a bit of a pathway. And there's a sense of comfort in that for many people. I remember I did a soul plan reading years ago, and the person I was working with, I would say she was a similar age to I am now, 50s, mid 50s, early 60s. And at the end of the soul plan reading, she says, Marilyn, thank you for explaining my whole life to me. Because one of the things that I found when I looked at my soul plan, and clients have said this to me subsequently, it's like seeing your whole life mapped out on 4 or 5 sheets of paper. It was really quite profound when I got into it, did the reading, understood more about what the little squiggles and signs mean and how it all interacts, because you've got the individual aspects, and then of course you've got the interaction of all of that as well. And that means you can start creating a more aligned and bespoke plan for your life journey. And one of the things my clients often find is they will go back and look at their soul plan several months later or even years later, and the soul plan is still speaking to them, because this is about your entire life. So it can help in a number of ways. Also, if you have some of those big life fundamental questions, why are you here? What can you do to achieve your goals and harness your talents? What stops or blocks you? Why isn't it, whatever the it is for you, working? What do you need to do to get into alignment? What's your next step? How do you bring together the power, your skills, your talents, your soul destiny? So it can help you answer some of those. Oh, and that's the URL for those of you who wanted to take part in the challenge. So there are so many things that it can do for you. So before we get into all of that, and I would say, first of all, just have a little think of those aspects. Which is it for you? Is it about achieving your goals? Is it about harnessing, accessing, better utilizing your gifts, your skills, your talents? Is it about clearing challenges and blockages? Or are you like, hey, what's my soul here to do? I'm just curious about that. So have a little bit of a think about that. Before we get into the detail of it, just a very quick overview for those of you I haven't met before. I will be your tour guide for today, your soul plan tour guide. My name is Marilyn Devonish. I do a myriad of things. I had a very traditional background, did a business studies degree, postgraduate marketing diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing, was studying to be a chartered accountant, but also was very quiet and shy, terrified of public speaking. And of course, things changed. That's a story for another day. But suffice to say, in the space of a couple of weeks, I went from being quiet and shy and lacking in confidence and self-esteem to doing what I do now. I've been doing that since October 2000. over that time, which is well over 2 decades at this point, I've added several different modalities. So I'm trained in about 20 different modalities. I started off with NLP, hypnosis, and timeline therapy. So I did the practitioner, master practitioner and training in all of those modalities. I'm a certified life and executive coach, a photo reading, accelerated learning instructor, EFT, DNA, theta healing, access consciousness, access bars, past life regression, FLP, future life progression, Reiki, tarot. It's all in there. Of course, I am a soul plan reader. As I said, I did that. I did the practitioner training in November 2013. And I'm also now a certified soul plan instructor. I'm also an archetypal profiling consultant and a corporate trainer, mentor, and public speaker and seminar leader. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I've been writing for newspapers and magazines since 2003. So started off writing about emotional health and well-being, had a agony aunt problem page column with Spirit and Destiny magazine for 7 years. I was also a media expert for Psychology's magazine. I really should have kept track back then. It was just like written for a magazine, great, written for a magazine, great. So I didn't keep track, but I've written for hundreds of publications, some of which you can see on the screen if you are watching this as the video webinar, and if you're listening, well, just trust me, there's a lot. The first book I co-authored, it's a physical book, so I can't send you an ebook copy. It is on the shelf behind me, you can see with the yellow covers. Stories of Transformation, co-authored by myself and people like Anthony Robbins, Dr. Paul Shealy, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, Chun Yi Lin, and Brian Tracy. So that's all about how did we change and transform our lives. I also now write for business publications. So some of the recent ones, Huffington Post People Management, Chartered Management Institute, The Guardian, Forbes magazine, PR Moment, lots of work in terms of TV and radio, BBC Radio, Talk TV. I've done several segments with them. So kind of doing that side of things as well in terms of business. I've also been a flexible and remote working specialist implementation consultant since 2003. So well before the world was remote working. And I've also been working online in terms of doing online coaching, online training and online therapy since 2005 and working from home since the year 2000. And before you sort of go, well, it's all right for you then doing all this stuff, well, let me just recap and remind you of what I said when I did the intro. That this personality profile that you see on the screen before you, shy, lacking in confidence, low self-esteem, doing the whole self-sabotage thing. I contemplated suicide in September 2000, and the way I described it, I was living life on the outside like a spectator, on the outside looking in, almost like you got your nose pressed against the glass. I was also diagnosed with what was thought to be early onset Alzheimer's in my early 20s, and physically and emotionally weighed down. That was me until the age of 32. So I didn't just do a Lady Gaga and was born this way. There are things that you can do to change and transform that. And that's why I'm such a fan of personal development. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And what I'll do, and the reason I told you that as well, when I refer back to my soul plan, because I'll share a few little aspects just to give you the contrast frame. Because if I just give you the contrast, you go, well, that's not you. Having given you the backstory, when I go into the soul plan, you'll be like, oh, that was totally you. So just so you get a clear understanding and appreciation. And for those of you who are here live, thank you, because this was very short notice. As I said, thought about it yesterday, but whoa, better do something. But if you have questions, if you have queries as we go along, put those into the chat. Put those into the Q&A, and we'll have a Q&A segment at the end. And I'll also be talking about how you can win a soul plan reading and also introducing you to the soul plan metaverse. So we have that to come. So the key elements of the soul plan, there are 7 different facets. So for those of you who have your soul plan report, let's do that. That's what that first page looks like. And then you have the text where it shows you the potential attributes and possible challenges for each of the aspects of your particular soul plan. So, well, actually, hold on, my little light is on, just make sure it's nothing to do with like you can't hear a call. Okay, cool. Ooh, very good question. Very good question. We will come to that in terms of, well, hold on a minute. If several people got the same name, won't their soul plan be the same? Brilliant question. Hold that thought. We'll talk about that in the Q&A. That's a fantastic question. One sec. So we've got the worldly, and the spiritual. So you got worldly challenges, those are the blocks and barriers, worldly talents and skills that naturally come to you, worldly goals, what are the aspirations you're here to master. So when if you've done personal development, the goal setting, SMART goals, all that sort of stuff. Spiritual challenges, what are some of the deeper spiritual lessons, spiritual talents? Again, these are your natural gifts and attributes, some of which may not come to the fore immediately. We'll talk about why that is in a few moments. Spiritual goals, this is what's your mission, what's your higher purpose. The way I sort of describe this one, particularly if I'm doing this in a more corporate context. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm laughing to myself because I've just seen, I couldn't decide which earrings to wear today, whether it was going to be the amethyst or the globes. So I put one of each on, and then I've just realized I didn't decide. I just caught sight of the earrings. So yes, so for those of you who have got a keen eye, that's why I'm wearing two different earrings, because I couldn't decide which to wear. Anyway, I digress. So when I'm doing this in the more corporate context, I will talk about it in terms of something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Bottom of that triangle is like survival, the practical, the physical, and as you start to get towards the top of that, you're moving into self-actualization. So I think of it a little bit like that. And then you've got your soul destiny, which sits in the heart of your soul plan chart, and that's your highest purpose, your highest potential. So what is your soul destiny? What is your soul here to do? What is it? If somebody said, what are you born? I can hear Lady Gaga now. Again, I was born this way. But if somebody's saying, so what do you feel you were put here on this earth to do? What are you born to do? What is your soul desire? That's the thing that sits in the heart of the soul plan. Now, in terms of your soul plan report, you've got the two triangles, Star of David. You might think of it in that way. You've got the downward triangle, which is the worldly aspects. And that tends to be approximately age 0 to 30 stroke 35. 0 to 30 stroke 35. Okay, cool. On two devices. With regards to that, there will be things in the worldly that if you're having your soul plan reading done in your 45, 52, 67, whatever it might be, you'll probably look at your soul plan and go, oh yeah, did that, experienced that, that's what I do, I've overcome that challenge, I've resolved that, because you've been moving through. But 0 to 30 stroke 35 is where you're more likely to come up against those spiritual challenges, where the worldly challenges, where you are getting into exploring, appreciating the talents, the gifts, the skills that you have, and where you are starting to formulate your worldly goals. So that's the kind of beginning cycle. You've then got 30 to 35 plus, which is the upward triangle, which is a spiritual aspect. And it doesn't mean you suddenly get more spiritual and you're at the top of Mount Shasta, although you can well do that, and I'm sure it's great fun. What it means is, like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of these things you've now solved and resolved, and you're now moving into a different aspect of yourself, maybe deeper exploration. Other things are more important to you, other things take precedence, and you start exploring more of the aspects of who you are and what you are here to do. And then in the center is the soul destiny. And one of the things that's often very interesting about the soul plan is that there'll be things that people are drawn to do, don't know why, look at their soul plan and go, oh my goodness, now it all makes sense, because the aspects have been showing up around the soul plan and possibly very strongly in terms of the soul destiny, and you're being drawn to that and pulled to that. So one of the things I hear most often when we're talking about, okay, we've got some of these challenges, you've got some of these blockages, you've got goals you want to achieve, you've got talents that you maybe not utilizing, what are we going to do about it? Each of the soul plan aspects is very specific, and there are self-help things recommended that you can start doing straight away, free of charge, and we'll talk about some of those things today in this webinar. And there are recommended specific forms of self-help that you can use with each of the different aspects of the soul plan. So I might say, well, in your soul plan, one of the things that it talks about in terms of helping to overcome the challenges and really step into your skills and gifts and talents is psychic art. Somebody will say, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. I have just taken up a psychic art class, or I was looking at that online, or I've been thinking about doing that. And again, for them, it might have seemed really random. But suddenly they're like, okay, now I can see why, because it's almost like their soul is cajoling, pushing, pulling them, however you want to think of it, to do the things that will allow you to be more of who you are and to be in that freer soul expression. So really interesting the way that things can show up. So first thing we said we wanted to really talk about, aside from what's the soul plan and exploring how it's laid out, is overcoming some of those big life challenges. So we're going to explore the worldly and spiritual challenges. What I've done, because we'll be here all day if I went through all of them, which is why I've broken the 5-day challenge down into various aspects. I'm just going to pick a couple of examples from the soul plan. I'm not naming anyone. I'm going to pick a couple of examples from the soul plans that I've sent out for people who are taking part in the challenge. And we're going to look at the worldly challenge aspect of one of them and the spiritual challenge aspect of one of them. And I'm going to share with you, okay, what can you do if you have these challenges to resolve them and overcome them? So we're looking at, so on your soul plan, you'll see as it's facing you, you've got on the right hand side, you've got worldly challenges, spiritual challenges. Now that's not normally how we'd read your soul plan. We would go around the triangle. So when I'm doing a one-to-one reading, first we'd look at the worldly challenges, then we'll look at the worldly talents, then we'll look at the worldly goals, then we cycle back, we do spiritual challenges, spiritual talents, spiritual goals, and then we explore the soul destiny. I'm doing it slightly differently for the purposes of the webinar, but this is not how I would do the order in which I do a one-to-one reading, but I wanted to put the challenges together, the goals together, talents together, etc. For those of you who are doing the challenge, that's why I've structured it in that way. So we're going to look at the worldly challenge, and I've chosen the 6-6 because I put a spreadsheet about, oh my gosh, it's several years ago, not that long ago, but I did a couple of years ago, I did something called 50 soul plans for £50. So £50, which is not less than the half price of an actual soul plan reading. So 50 soul plans, £50, and then I did is a group webinar. So the challenge is spread out over 5 days. With the webinar, it's just like, boom, let's do a condensed, I think it was an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. And what I did back then is I put all of the results on a spreadsheet, and so I could then see the clusters. I did the same thing with the soul plan challenge. Really interesting. There are lots of clusters, lots of overlap, and a few outliers as well. The reason I've chosen the 6-6 is that was way popular in terms of there's a lot of 6-6 energy going on. So a lot of people had the 6-6. One person had it 3 times in their chart, and several of you had it show up, at least once, sometimes twice. 3, I think, was a maximum number of repeats we've had. I'll check the spreadsheet later, but I think 3 was the maximum number repeats we've had. The most interesting soul plan I've ever seen is Robin Williams, where he had the 10-1 energy, which does, depending on who you're reading for, have potential suicidal tendencies. He had the 10-1 5 times. That's really unusual. So I've got goosebumps just saying that. Really unusual to see that amount of replication in one person's soul plan. Anyway, that's a different story for a different day. So I've chosen the 6-6 here, and we're going to look at the worldly challenge. You may be on a device, and just in case it's quite small, and of course some of you might be listening to this as an audio if I put this up somewhere as an audio, so I'm going to read what it says on the screen. I'm not reading it because I know you don't think you can read, just in case it's small. So the worldly challenge, 6-6. When you have this in the challenge position, and we talk about possibility and potential, it doesn't mean you have all of these things. And when I'm doing a soul plan reading with someone, as I said to those of you who are doing the challenge, have a look through, see what resonates. So there'll be times where, boom, something stands out. Now, oftentimes people just laugh and go, all of the above, but it doesn't mean that all of these will apply to you, even if you have the 6-6. So it can include, in terms of the challenges, rigidity of expression, anger, frustration, needs guarantees before kind of moving forwards, taking action, etc., hates taking risks, too many ideas, leading to stress, leading to burnout. You've got 20,000 things on to go, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, like almost like the kind of metaphorical spinning of plates. So those are some of the challenges for the 6-6. Some of the limiting beliefs for people who have the 6-6 energy. Now, just to be clear, even if it's not in a challenge position, you can still have some of these limiting beliefs, but they tend to be heightened when you have it in a challenge position. So you've got things like, my creativity is blocked, others are blocking me, There's too much to do. I am lacking power. I must find the answers. There is no way out. I am stuck. So if you're a writer, perhaps you may know the term, even if you're not a writer, you probably know the term writer's block, where just nothing's coming through, nothing's working, that sort of energy. So if you are in the place where you have the 6-6 and you're experiencing some of the challenges of that, some of the things you can do in terms of self-help, learning to focus on one activity at a time, sticking with it, completing that activity. Do not pass go to the next item until you've completed what you're doing, or at least done what you'd set out to do with it, even if it's just part of a task. Anger management courses, the reason that will come up, if you have all of this creative energy running through you, but you are not expressing that creativity, you're not doing something with it because it's not certain, you don't step over the line and create it. Oh my God, what if it doesn't work? What if nobody likes it? All that sort of energy. What happens potentially is you can get angry and frustrated. Now, sometimes the anger and frustration will turn in on self. Other times the anger and frustration might turn out at other people, or you might be angry and frustrated at society, the system, etc. So that's where the anger management would come in. If you kind of haven't made the link and connection, it's like, why that? Recreational activities that require you to develop concentration. So things like chess, for example, where you don't just fling a chess piece across and cross your fingers, good luck. You're actually having to really focus, use your mind, concentrate, to plan, strategize what's the next move, and actually what several moves ahead if you are planning to win that game. So that can be a really good one for heightened concentration, focus, and in the 6-6 energy, what they call that Zen-like ability, and also things like meditation, which require you to focus, get into alignment, quiet the mind. So with the challenges, I would say, when you look at your soul plan report, see which one or couple really jump out. And it might be, if you're like all of them, just say, okay, which one? If there were one challenge such that when I resolve that, all of the other challenges will also start to reduce, resolve, or even fall away, what would that one be? Pick one and then go, okay, now, in terms of that self-help, for example, and there are specific therapies, but the self-help are things you can do, get started for free. In terms of that, what's one thing I can do? Pick from that list, or it might have sparked something else that you can do. What's one thing I can do either today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year to reduce that challenge? Diarize it, or if it's something you can do right now, do it right now. So that's how you would deal with the challenges. That's the way you can start thinking about the challenges. That's the way you can begin to kind of break those down. And there are times you might start with something small. If you need the guarantees and you don't like taking risks, you're risk averse. Well, what about this? And what if it doesn't work? And blah, blah, blah. Just choose one thing. Just do a little thing. It doesn't have to be all in, right? It's all or nothing. But just choose one thing that you can do, because that then starts to open the doorway to put you more in the power energy of that. Now, in terms of spiritual challenges, I've chosen the 3-3 because that comes up several times as well with the people who are doing the Soul Plan Challenge. So if you have the spiritual challenge in your 3-3 area of your chart, and by the way, there are 22 different aspects of the soul plan. So you will have potentially seven. I always think of Len Goodman when I say 7. So you'll have potentially 7, but if you were Robin Williams, you had 5. You had 3 because you had 5 things the same time, all the same round, but potentially 7 different things that could be on a soul plan. But if you've got overlap, let's say you've got 2 or 3 of one, then the others may be different, but there are 22 different aspects we could be talking about. So I've chosen the 3-3 because that was a popular one as well with those who are doing the challenge. If you have it in the spiritual challenge aspect, the challenges, potential challenges can include, to come out of your shell, to gain confidence, to teach, communicate, or express yourself in some way. There can potentially be poverty issues. There might be sexual imbalance or blockages, some kind of confusion, who you are, what's your identity. There can be latent violent tendencies. As I said, this is about potential possibility. It doesn't mean just because you got it, you're going to be violent. Blockages in wealth or spiritual gifts and the connection that you have with spirit source, however you might phrase that. And self-worth issues can also get in the way. So things like the not worthy enough, not good enough, not capable, not enough, those sorts of things can also present extra challenges. Now, the limiting beliefs that sit with the 3-3 energy include money is evil. So that would then feed into the wealth and the whole thing about the kind of the wealth and poverty issue. So money is evil. I am worthless. People are judging me. I am unworthy. I am under attack. I am being watched. I am undeserving. So I'd say when I'm doing a reading with someone in terms of the limiting beliefs, now normally I read them once, and sometimes there'll be one that just pops out, but often I'll read it again, maybe 2 or 3 times. And I say to people, just sit with that, breathe, remain open. And as I say the limiting beliefs, just notice which of them most resonate with you. So again, you can do exactly the same. Go, okay, which of those most resonate? In terms of the self-help for the 3-3, you've got things like singing, writing, dancing, acting classes, voluntary work, which gives you an opportunity to share and to teach your skills, your knowledge. Now, the reason things like singing and dancing will be in there and the acting classes is because all of those things require you to come out of your shell. And years ago, oh my gosh, it must have been, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. So I'm sure Facebook memories could tell me exactly when. Seriously, this was so freaking random. I was sitting here at my desk. I think I didn't have this desk at the time. It was my other desk. So I'm sitting basically in the same spot. And I'm like, I should do acting classes. This is like the whimsical me. I was like, the other part of me was like, what? Why? You love being on stage. You love talking. I was like, yeah, but that's one of the times I use the but. Yeah, but there's something different about acting. It's very different to standing on stage with a microphone on your hand, which I now find easy and I love it. And that's why I teach other people to do the same and coach them in public speaking and presenting. But acting, oh, that's a whole different ball game. So here's me now. It's the same thing that happened with pole fitness. I'm like, well, if there's an acting class that's handy and easy to get to, and I'll do it. So I get online, I type in acting classes London, and I swear this is the absolute truth. Hit the return key. A few came up, and there was one which is quite close to Euston, because what I didn't want to do, because I suspected it would be in, there wasn't really much happening locally where I am. So I started to search in London. What I didn't want to do is have to get into London and get on the tube, get on the train, blah, blah, blah. There was one that was walking distance to Euston Station, which is the station my train comes in at. I'm like, oh, cool. It was starting that day. So I'm looking at around, I don't know, 1 o'clock, something like that, lunchtime. It was starting that day, I think at 6 or 6:30. Here's me now. Oh, no, that's too short notice and not enough time. My other brain was like, you said you wanted to do acting classes. You said you would go if you could find one that was suitable. You said you would go if you could find one that was, close to Euston. And you said you would do it if there was one starting soon. How much sooner do you want? So you know what? I was like, all right, fair play. Can't argue with that. That's exactly what I said. So I went onto the site, which was just about to close in terms of taking enrollments, got in just under the wire. Booked my place, paid my money, finished what I was doing, got myself into London. Boom, I was there on the acting class that very day. And it was a 8-week class. Oh my God, it was just... If you don't like public speaking and talking, you're probably not going to enjoy that either. I went to an improv. Now, improv is way out there. And one of the first exercises was be a toaster. I'm like, really? So it was fantastic. But that's what I say. It's about, getting out of yourself. So you don't have to, I jumped in at the deep end. You don't have to do that. You could just sing a little song when you next walk to the bathroom, and we'll talk about some of the things you can do. But that's what I mean in terms of being creative with the way that you explore the energy of this and explore these challenges. So that's just give you a flavor of the spiritual challenge. So next thing we wanted to talk about is, okay, you've got these wonderful gifts and talents as well that are expressed by the soul plan. So again, I've gone with the so with the 3-3, and just to give you a sense in terms of just the differences, you've got things like worldly talents, the 3-3, great gifts of expression, the need to share, excellent teachers and leaders. So if you have that 3-3 energy, you will probably find that you are drawn to teaching. It may be, let's just say, I don't know, you're in the office, you're at your desk, you're not a teacher, you're in a day job, you're in an office job, and I don't know, photocopier's not working. You go and sort it out, but not just sort it out. You then say to the person who's standing there looking all bemused, well, next time the paper jams, what you can do is open this panel. You see that green lever, pull the green lever down, pull it towards you, roll that little roller, and the bit of paper that's stuck will come out. The person who's standing will go, oh, wow, thank you so much. You've taught that person. So now they don't need to come running like, oh my God, the photocopy is not working, or come to you. They'll go, oh yeah, Marilyn said, pull the panel down, do the green lever, pull it towards you, roll the roller, the paper comes out, da, 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 da. And I use that as a real example because when I was working as a secretary, of course, one of my roles was the photocopier and all the printer and all that sort of stuff. And it was so frustrating. Have to stop what you're doing, go all the way to the, because you had a photocopier room in those days, everybody didn't have one on their desk, go all the way to photocopy and sort it out, or ring the engineer, because every 5 minutes I was ringing the engineer, and then processing those invoices. And one of the days I phoned the engineer. I was like, let me just stand here and see what the engineer does for this paper jam. He pulled down the panel, did the green lever, pulled it towards him, rolled the roller, pulled the stuck paper out, made sure it's all clear, pushed the green lever back in, put it back into position, close the panel, thank you very much. I'm like, I could do that. So the next time it jammed, before I ran to the phone to call the engineer, and of course there were times where we really did need to call the engineer. These are these big industrial printers. But from then on in, the number of times we had to do a call out dramatically reduced because I was then fixing it. But then I started teaching other people. So that's what I mean about the teaching energy. It could be that you have it in the goals position, where if it's a goal, your goal might be to learn to be more confident in your expression. So you may not just naturally be one of those speakers who's out in the world teaching, sharing, doing all that stuff. And nowadays we've got TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, well, X, LinkedIn, all of these ways to share. It may be that that's not where you are. However, that's where you aspire to be. That is what you aspire to do. So learn to be confident in your expression. You might have the goal of accumulating wealth and security, so you don't have the poverty issues going on. You may also be working towards acquiring self-worth, that self-esteem, that self-belief, that self-confidence. And it could also be that you're there to be more balanced in your sexuality, and that will mean different things to different people. And what I would say about that will vary depending on who is sitting in front of me, metaphorically, because I do the readings online, but you will maybe have goals in these areas. Then if you have, in terms of spiritual talents, the spiritual talent, you are a powerful catalytic teacher. So my logo since 2001 has been the water drop. It's behind me. It's behind you, like pantomime. It's been, let's see if I can get the light. It's been the water drop logo, and the ripple effect. Because I realized that when I was doing these one-day breakthrough sessions where you come in at 10 in the morning, whoosh, we can change and transform your life, whoosh, you go out at 5, have a nice life. It was a catalyst. We did massive major work in that one day, and then the benefits of that would continue to ripple out in people's lives. The longest I've had someone message me after doing a breakthrough 10 years later. Did not hear from this man for 10 years. He emailed me to say that he had a colleague of his who was looking for an executive coach. Am I still working in the field? He'd love to recommend me. I'm like, yeah, cool, go for it. That'll be wonderful. And he says, oh, I've been meaning to email you. I just wanted to say the effects of that one-day breakthrough session we did are still rippling throughout my entire life. And I was like, I don't think I've spoken to this man for like 10, and I was just like, for like 10 years. And then I went and checked my database. He did a breakthrough session 10 years prior, but it was a catalyst. So that's what I mean. That's what it means when it says you go in, you teach. Sometimes it's a very short interaction. It may just be a very short conversation you've had with someone. It's a catalyst in their life. Sometimes you will meet that person again. Oftentimes you don't. They go into their life and do what they're going to do. But sometimes you meet them again and they might say, you know, that time we spoke, and it might have just been a networking event for a few minutes, but you said something really profound and that changed my life, or you said something really profound and that caused me to do this, or I read the book that you recommended, or the thing that you said really resonated with me, it stayed with me. And then they will go on to talk about this wonderful chain of events. So it's that catalytic energy. And in terms of the spiritual goals, if you have it as the 3-3, the goal is to become a powerful catalytic teacher and to balance your sexuality. Or, you know, and it doesn't have to be both. But if you're drawn, if you've got the 3-3, and when I say teaching, people often think about being a school teacher or, you know, standing up on stage, running work. It's not that at all. And I have one of my clients, I won't say her name, actually, although she did share it publicly, but I won't share her name on this occasion. But I had one of my clients, we did the soul plan. She had the 3-3, very strong energy in her chart, and it kept coming up in different guises, even when it wasn't the 3-3. There were other aspects of the soul plan that appeared in hers that had that teaching vibration. And she kept saying, yeah, but I'm not a teacher, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a teacher. And I was saying, look, it can come in other ways. It doesn't necessarily mean standing up in front of a class or anything like that. A couple of weeks later, she worked for, in what we call here, government job, civil service, we call it in the UK. You'd call it kind of government department in the US, for those of you who are from the US. And she worked for she worked as a civil servant, had a mentor, so someone she was mentoring in the organization, young man. And great sessions. He came to her a couple of weeks after we did the soul plan reading and said, I've got a friend who started at a similar time to me. He's also been assigned a mentor, doesn't like the mentor. They're not having anything like the breakthroughs experiences we're having. Could you become my friend's mentor because you're such a great teacher? That's what he said to her. She got goosebumps because suddenly then she realized that although she's not standing up in front of a class, she's teaching. And in her case, teaching the next generation. So it can really show up in interesting ways. But when you look at your soul plan, sometimes it's aligned with what you're doing. Other times it's aligned with your goals, your aspirations. What would you absolutely love to be doing, or what do you find yourself doing naturally, even in non-traditional ways? So if that doesn't make sense, let me know, put something in the chat and I'll go into that further. But really that's what it's all about with regards to this one. Now, in terms of the goals and talents for the 6-6, as I've just focused on these two for today. 6-6 is pretty straightforward. It's about creativity. So you're 100% drawn to be creative. And, you know, when you got it in the worldly talents, it's about having a Zen-like focus, following through your ideas, very practical. In terms of if you've got it as a worldly goal, become really creative. The soul pushes you. So there's no choice. You're going to be creating something, whatever that creativity and that outlet might be. If you've got it in a talent, again, it's about being 100% creative. When you put your mind to whatever it is you're focusing on creating, you get that Zen-like focus, allows you to follow through, and there's lots of light in this one, and you are spiritually expansive, and maybe even creating something that is spiritually expansive for others. And if you got it as a goal, it's about to become really creative, and similar to the worldly goal, what they call the physical goal, you'll be pushed into doing it. There's almost no choice. It's like there's a quote on social media, let go or be dragged. It's a bit like that with the 6-6 if you got it as a goal or a talent. So in terms of achieving your goals, all right then, so you've got this information. How can your soul plan help you to achieve your goals? If we come back to the 3-3, for example, which we'd met previously, the 3-3 is about expression and communication. So one of the things you can do is look at the challenges and kind of go, okay, I'm going to resolve some of those challenges, because when you resolve the challenges, the way I describe it is like you've got a dark room and you want more light, switch on the light. That's it. Switch on light. Whoom, the room is switch on the light. The dark is gone. It's there. So you can start focusing on resolving the challenges. That's one of the easiest. Well, I'll say easiest with help and support. That's one of the easiest things to do. All of the aspects have suggested therapies as well. So with the 3-3, it's life coaching, sound healing, psychic art therapy, throat chakra blockage clearing, stage fright hypnotherapy, or CIT, core issue therapy. If you're into flower remedies, for example, it might be you like back flower remedies. So for the 3-3, it's impatiens, larch, holly, or walnut. So look at the attributes. So you could just say, I'm going to teach more. I'm going to be more expressive. I'm going to use my intuition more. I am going to get more in touch with who I am and how I feel and da da da. You can simply make a decision, but making one of those decisions will then allow you to start achieving those goals using your skills and talents. So what I've done here is just put together a very quick chart just to give you an idea in a different sort of format. Let's just say, so it could be a challenge, it could be a goal. So let's just say you've got fear of public speaking. One of the things from the self-help, you could do the stage fright hypnotherapy, for example. Let's just say your goal is to teach, but you haven't started yet. Then maybe you could do some voluntary work, which helps you to teach. You might be teaching a group of adults, children, whatever it might be. If your goal, or it might be the challenge, is to come out of your shell, you could sing and dance, because that is a form of creative expression, which is different to just your regular, back and forth talking. And it uses the body in a different way as well. If your goal is to develop your intuition, then you could do the psychic art therapy, because you're not drawing logically and critiquing as you go. It's just all from that wonderful, intuitive and universal space. If your challenge was worthiness or feeling undeserving, then you might go something like the life coaching or therapy. If your goal is about leadership, being a leader, promotion, leading a team, leading an organization, leading a cause, then find opportunities to share, find opportunities to lead. It may be that you're in an organization and they're looking for someone to lead a particular project. Put your hand up, say, I'll do that. It might be that you're part of I'm part of WACA, the Watford African Caribbean Association. So let's just say you're part of an association, or you might be a school governor or something like that. And they're looking for someone to lead on something. Put your hand up, say, I'll do it, because all of this will start building into those skills. Let's just say you've got blockages in wealth and you're in the place that you believe money is evil, for example. Then never mind all the volunteering. Get paid for what you do. Do something that pays you. Go for something that pays you for your skills, because when you're paid for your skills, if you've misaligned being paid with your sense of worth, it starts to blow the boundaries on that. But beyond that, because I would say don't necessarily link the two, because it's a slippery slope. But what it starts to do is it starts to show you there is value in what you do. And it starts resolving the poverty kind of paradigm that sits with that energy. And it might be that your goal is to, really build your depth of knowledge or tap into your depth of knowledge. Or it might be the challenges not really being in touch with your feelings and who you are and what you want. So you could do something like the recommended therapy for that one is core issue therapy. So just some thoughts about how you could then take that information and do something with it. So when we do the challenge, I'll be talking about some of the self-help things. And my suggestion is, I'm old school, I like pen and paper, but you might have your device to the ready. And as we go through those self-help things, you might go, actually, good point. Now, for those of you watching this webinar, if any of those resonate, you could do something as soon as today. You could do something in the next couple of minutes as soon as we finish this. Back in my day, for us to have music on the move, we needed it was a Walkman first, when Sony were the ones who were the pioneers. So they, Sony Walkman, Sony Discman, of course, other people came into the field, where you'd have your cassette tape, put it in your little Walkman, put your little headphones on, off you go. Now, Spotify, YouTube, very easy. So if you think, oh, actually I do want to come out of my shell more, go to YouTube, or if you have a Spotify account, go to Spotify. If you've got iTunes, go to iTunes. Whatever it is, pick a track, sing, dance. If you have mobility issues, then do your chair dancing. If you don't have any mobility issues, push that chair back, stand up, give it your best moves for 2.5, 3 minutes, whatever it is. Like, you might giggle to yourself, but what the heck, do it anyway. If, let's say, you're thinking, developing my intuition, psychic art therapy, or even just art appeals, yeah. Look, I do, because I'm always mind mapping. I do have coloured pens, and I have packets of coloured pens in the drawer behind me, all the rest of it. It doesn't even need that. I actually do. I'm old school again. I said I possess a pencil, actually, even one of those old school pencils with the rubber on the top. Without all of these things, you could just take your regular pen and draw something. We're not talking about being the next Van Gogh, Picasso, Monet. It's just about your free expression. And I would say, with the things that we've been talking about, choose low hanging fruit. As I said, signing up for the improv acting class was like jumping in at the deep end and going right to the almost top of the tree. But low hanging fruit might be, I'm going to go to YouTube, I'm going to pick a track, and I'm going to dance today. Or I'm going to sing when I get up from wherever I'm watching this and I go to the bathroom or go to the kitchen, whatever. Just make it simple. Do not overcomplicate it. So, in terms of some final next steps, in terms of overcoming challenges that are in the soul plan reading, practitioner certification, and how to win a soul plan reading and the soul plan metaverse, let's spend the next few minutes just doing that. So you've got a couple of options in terms of next steps. You can do a private one-to-one soul plan reading with your truly, Marilyn Devonish. You can join us for the 5-day soul plan activation challenge, which starts in just 45 minutes from now. If you're watching this in real time, of course. If you're not, then we're done. We've done it. We've done the first day. Or you can add a new string to your bow, and you can become a certified soul plan reader yourself, so that you are reading soul plans for your clients. So first one, to do a private soul plan reading, simplest way, go to my website, transformationstm.com/soul plan. I will spell that for those who might be listening on audio. It's TRANCE, F for Freddie, so FORMATIONSTM. So transformationstm.com/soul plan. You'll find the information about how to do a one-to-one soul plan reading. Number 2, you can join us for the Soul Plan Activation Challenge. Go to www.bit.ly/soul-plan-challenge. So that's 5 days. We're breaking down the aspects of the soul plan based on your soul plans, because people who have done the challenge have submitted their birth name. I've prepared their soul plans. You should have all, if you're watching this and you have not had your soul plan PDF, let me know. I'll send that out in a few minutes. But you've all had your soul plan reports. And now what I'm going to do, having broken all that down, put it all into a spreadsheet, I'm going to go through the aspects of your individual soul plans. I won't be naming anyone. I'll just be saying 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 10, 1, 11, 2, etc. So that's the second thing you can do. And the third thing, you might want to become a certified soul plan reader yourself. So it provides you with a business in a box, because this is something you can do as a standalone service. So, you know, when you go to those mind, body, spirit shows, etc., you can have a table at a mind, body, spirit show doing mini soul plan readings for people, for example. And if you've got the wealth and poverty issues going on, I highly suggest you charge for those readings. You wouldn't charge the same price as a full soul plan, but you can charge something for it, you know, 20, 30 pounds, whatever you want to do. So that's one of the things. It could be a business in a box, a standalone service that you offer to your clients. Also, if you're a coach, consultant, trainer, therapist, CEO, manager, whatever it is, I've already talked about the permission based on this. It can give you an accurate diagnostic for your client practice, because when I use the soul plans as a diagnostic, that's where I'm having people go, oh my God, that's exactly it. So we're not now gaddling around in the dark. Oh, what's the limiting belief? What are the challenges? We're like, let's go straight there. And then we use that as our jumping off point. So you could do that. Now, if you want information about that, it's a bit of a weird one, but it is what it is. You can go to www.bit.ly/, there's no dashes in this one, /soul plan prac blog. I know, bit of a mouthful. What I will do is actually, let me do that. Let me do that right now. I am going to, I will, ooh, that's the one. I will put all of those links, for those of you who are here live, I'm going to put those into the public chat. So they will, so that's the soul plan reading. That is coming up next. That's the soul plan challenge. If you're not already in it, got to be in it to win it. And then I will put, oops, there we go. And coming up next, right, okay, so they're all in there. So there's a link to the soul plan reading, there's a link to the soul plan challenge, and there's this link to the practitioner blog. So that is all in there. We won't do the raw soul plans. Now, the Whitney Houston soul plan, if you're going to do a one-to-one soul plan reading, what you might want to do is go and read the Whitney Houston soul plan. That is available in the soul plan metaverse room. It's a little bit of a long URL. www.online.transformationstm.com/soul plan test room. Oh, have I got the URL for that one handy? Because that's a little bit of a mouthful. Let's see. Yes, I have. So that I will put that into the public chat as well. Right. So that's in the public chat as well. And in the soul plan metaverse room, what you will find, let's see. Yes, I have. What you'll find, there's a video. I did a radio interview, colourful radio, and and Lisa Bent, we did an interview about the soul plans. It was actually really fascinating because I was speaking to someone who'd never heard about soul plans, didn't know what they were. So it's really lovely to have that kind of conversation. So that's on the right hand side when you go in. Now you see on the screen where it's got the little red YouTube sign, it's a toggle. So once you've watched the video, click that toggle on the top right of the video will shut, it will disappear, but you can toggle, it's a toggle, so click it on and off. What you've got on the left hand side, you've got a link to the soul plan page of my website. You have got a link to the soul plan practitioner training, and you've got a link to the Whitney Houston soul plan. So I would suggest go into the metaverse room. You'll find all the links there. And if you're not doing the soul plan challenge, but you wanted to see what a soul plan report looks like, you won't see the same dashboard, because this is me, I own the room, but what you'll see is something called My View, which looks like almost like a key. Click on My View. On the right hand side, you'll see my files. I have uploaded a full demo soul plan, so you can flick through, see what the soul plan looks like. So that's the soul plan metaverse room. We'll do a Q&A, and then when to close, I'll let you know how you can win a one-to-one soul plan reading with me. So let me first of all, let me go to the question. So first question we had, and if you have any questions before we close, you're here live, put them into the chat or Q&A. The first question I had was, if you've got people with the same name, does it just mean they've got the same soul plan? Technically, yes, in terms of what's written on the page. However, when we do the reading, it's very different. How can I say? Okay. I remember years ago doing a reading with a friend of mine. So I'd known him for several years. If I was going to describe this person, stable, solid, balanced, open, emotional, connected to his emotions, grounded, strong, powerful, just amazing. And he still is amazing to this day. And his wife, when I've heard her describe him, she thinks he's amazing. So we're doing the soul plan reading, and I could not get out of my head the idea of the dark night of the soul and the depths of despair, to the point where you might consider taking your own life. So I'm doing the soul plan reading. I said, I don't know why, but when I'm looking at this aspect of it, and there's a moment of silence, and he said, I've never told anyone this before, but there was a point in my life where I sat and I put a gun in my mouth, and I was just about to pull the trigger, but he's, in his home, and then I thought of my mum finding me like that, and I didn't do it. But he'd never told anyone that. So for that to, because it's so random, even I was thinking, why do I want to say that? But one of the things I know, when I do tarot readings, intuitive readings, all the Huna stuff, I know not to question that. So I went with it. But reading that, say, if someone else had exactly the same soul plan, that probably wouldn't even enter my head. Also, even though you might have the same aspects, how they react and interact with each other, very, very different in terms of, and people will move through their soul plan at different rates. So now one of the questions was in terms of what when I said, it's like it was like looking at my whole life. So let me just give you an example of that. And I'd mentioned I said I'd do it anyway, but that's a good segue into your question. I'm just going to look at, this is mine, and I've got the 10-1 as my worldly challenge. So the worldly challenge for the 10-1: potential attributes, yin-yang balance, male-female balance, excellent healers, inventive, power, has many spiritual abilities, vocal expression, channel, possible service incarnation. When I read that, people go, oh my gosh, Marilyn, that's so like you. You've got, like, I'm trained in 20 different spiritual modalities. I speak for a living. I teach others in terms of public speaking, presenting, communication skills. I'm a corporate trainer, you know, so all of those things. I do a lot of the healing work with the Huna, EFT, all that sort of stuff, FLP, male female balance. For the 9 years that I was a relationship coach, 80% of my clients were men, which people find really strange, like why? But you know, so having that sense of balance, so people go, oh my god, yeah, that's totally you. When I read you the possible challenges: denial of spirituality, severely critical, self-loathing, perfectionist, feel alienated, insecure, must work to establish self in the spiritual. Now, do you remember when I did my opening and I gave you the little profile of me and what I do and who I am, and I did the Lady Gaga, what I call the Lady Gaga slide? The possible challenges would perfectly describe my life up until the age of 32. There was so much self-loathing that I sat and I wrote down all of the ways I could take my own life. That's how much self-loathing there was. So when I say I saw my soul plan, it was like seeing my life reflected back to me. And what I was doing now, it's like, whoa, but that's, the contrast is so great. But just reading the 10-1, I'm like, whoa, that's me down to a T. And then of course I go through the others as well, but just wanted to give you a sense of that. Oh, that's a good question. Let me get it right. Sorry, the question was, sorry, you can't see that question. The questions was, when is the soul plan practitioner is, oh, unlucky for some, but for lucky for us, Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, Sunday the 15th of October. So 13, 14, 15, that's the date, and it's online. No, it's not, because where is it? I said, where is it? It's online, so you could be anywhere. Right, okay, I think that's it for the questions. Alrighty, so our final, actually, sorry, the lights just, I'll look at that one in a minute. But just so we get to this one, I know we started a little bit late with faffing around with the slides. So how to win the soul plan reading? Very simple. Go to the soul plan metaverse room is free. All you have to do is put in a name. You can call yourself Fifi Trixabel, it doesn't matter. Put in a name, choose an avatar. There are loads of pictures for you to choose from. You can upload your own photo, but if you're being anonymous, then choose an avatar. So go to the metaverse room, the online.transformationcm.com/soul plan test room. Play the spin to win. You just need to put your email address into play. Send me a screenshot of your result. Whether it's a win or not, doesn't matter. Just send me a screenshot. I'll put your email into the prize draw. And then if you want some bonus entries into the prize draw, share on social media one thing that you learned or took away from today's webinar. Use the hashtag SoulPlanMD, as in Soul Plan Marilyn Devonish, because if you just use Soul Plan, other people might have used it and I won't be able to find it. So use hashtag SoulPlanMD. Use at Marilyn Devonish, MARILYN DEV for Victor, ONISH. So use at Marilyn Devonish to tag me in so that I definitely see it as well. But I'll do a little bit of a search at the end of the week for hashtag SoulPlanMD, and that will give you a few extra entries. Put your name in the hat, and the person I pull out of the metaphorical hat will win a one-to-one soul plan reading. So I do those online, either telephone or Zoom, my online meeting room, etc. So that's how you can win a soul plan reading with me. My light was on. So what are the times of day for the soul plan practitioner, please? Oh, that's so polite. Love the way you wrote that. Right. Not to say the other people didn't. So seriously, I've dug myself a hole now. Cancel that. Right. So the times of the day, that's a very good question. We are going to be starting at 10 a.m. This is UK BST. Gosh, that'll be early. So 5 a.m. USA Eastern time. So 10 a.m. And I'm saying till 5:30/6 because it's a small group. I only want a small group because it's my very first one. So I don't want to have loads of people to contend with. I really want to focus on the material, make sure I deliver it well. Everybody gets what they want. They get the questions answered. So we're going to do 10 a.m. UK BST to 5:30/6 p.m. It might even be as early as 5 if I keep the group the similar. I've got room. I think I want one more person to balance it out because at the moment I've got an odd number. And because you give soul plan reading and you receive a soul plan reading, it's really good to have an even number. But what I will do once we see how we go for time, what I will do on the second day is if we've whizzed through, I'll then ask people, do you want to start at 10 or 10:30? And what time do we want to finish? But I'm going to say for now, 10 till 6, but we've got a little bit of flexibility with regards to that. So hope that answers your question. Cool. Right. Well, that is it in terms of what I wanted to cover for today. I really want to thank you for joining me for this impromptu event. For those of you who are watching this who are part of the 5-day challenge, I do hope that you are enjoying it. I will add this into the challenge portal. So it's right there so you can watch it as an intro. And it just means that when we get into the challenge later on today and this week, I can just very quickly whiz through the soul plan bit and I can just refer you back to this video. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you to those of you who have signed up to take part in the soul plan challenge. Just wanted to have fun with it, explore it in a few different ways. As I said, kind of, get into the groove and get ready for the soul plan practitioner training. Oh, hang on a minute, my light's on again. Okay, how much is the soul plan training? The soul plan training, and I'm talking about GBP, pounds, but you can, they do got soul plan readers all over the world. It's really big in Japan, apparently. I think they like the precision of it because it's very numerical and numbers based as well when you're casting the soul plan. That said, you do not need to cast the soul plans because I'm sure somebody's going to put a question and go, well, I have to do it by hand. No, when I show you the soul plan report, there's a piece of software that does that. So I put your birth name in and then the system does the report. But when we do the soul plan practitioner, you'll learn how to do it by hand, but there is the option of purchasing the software as well. Just wanted to make that clear. But in terms of the pricing, I'm going to do it in UK pounds. It's £490. And a proportion of that goes back to, and I should actually say everything that we've been doing is copyrighted, and that is to the Holistic Healing College and to Blue Marsden, who's written the Soul Plan book with Hay House. But a proportion of that goes back to them, but it's £490. And that's a one-off charge for you to do the soul plan training. Oh gosh, can't remember how much the software is because I don't sell it. You get it from the Holistic Healing College. I don't know, it's £150. I don't know, I can't remember. I'll have to check actually. But the practitioner training is £490. Once you've successfully completed that, it means you can then go out and do soul plan readings for your clients. You can set the price of what you want to charge for a soul plan reading. I've just seen a question come up there, for a one-to-one, it's £130. That's UK pounds at the moment. You might be reading this at a different time where the price has changed, but in real time, it's 130. So then, yes, you can offer it as a service. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Let me just check in the chat, make sure I've not missed anything there. No, we're good. And I've answered everything. Oh, hold on. All right. Sorry, missed that one. Could you explain the significance, if any, of having two of the same numbers in more than one area or multiple duplicate numbers? For example, I have the 9-9 in both the worldly goals and the soul destiny, and 7-7 in spiritual talents. So let's just say if you've got the 9-9 in worldly goals and soul destiny, what that probably means is there is no escape. Now, I'm only joking. You've always got free will. You've got free will. Do whatever you want with your life. However, if you are so inclined, and for me, I've got the 9-9 as I've got 6-6 twice. I've got the 9-9 once. With regards to the 9-9, so people know what we're talking about. The 99 is what we call the steely serpent. It's like being plugged into the universe. If you've got the 99 twice, it's going to be even more important that you keep your physical channel clear, because that 99 energy runs through you, like potentially runs through you like an electric force. If you've got an electric force and it hits a blockage, you've got some sort of combustion going on there. So what you want is your channel to be clear, so that as that energy runs through your system, it's not backing up anywhere. It's also that thing, because it's about being clairaudient, it's about being a catalyst, it's about being a challenge, it's about being a healer. So you've potentially got a bit of a double whammy of that. And healing, again, it might not be that you're doing hands-on, it could just be that when you're having conversations with people, they feel healed in some way. They feel as though they've been nurtured. Your words for them have an impact beyond just the mere words that you've said. And also, in terms of that whole thing about being clairaudient, you might know or hear things that other people around you, you're getting allegedly the same information, but you have just almost have a sixth sense. And you hear things in a way, and that therefore lets you know the right thing to say. So when it talks about being a channel, it may be that it feels like the information is coming through you. And there are times, and if you've done any of my workshops, you'll hear me say, damn, that was good. I hope someone wrote that down. Because it just comes out. And when I'm doing the tarot readings, for example, I do record those readings, thank goodness, because like even when I do Tarot Tuesday for my membership group, I do that every single month. Anyone who wants a tarot reading, I'll do the individual readings by Facebook Live first Tuesday of the month, unless I'm somewhere else, and then I'll shift it to a different day. But first Tuesday of the month, been doing that, I think, since 2016. I'll do the reading of the Facebook Live. I'm normally talking to myself because I just have to choose random times during the day. People will come back, watch the video, Facebook Live, and then I go, oh my God, that is so spot on. I've got no idea what I said. And I'll be like, oh, cool, good for you. What did I say? Because I'm just like, boom, gone. It just comes and it's out, and then I'm on to the next thing. So you may find that you have that kind of experience. Now, where it talks about, let's say, victim mentality, overly dramatic, not trusting their own channel, giving the power away, asking others. I'm not saying that you're on purpose being a drama queen, but if you have challenges with the 99, it could be that there's always some sort of drama, or you're not trusting yourself and your own thoughts, your own ideas, and you're then going out and validate, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Is it okay? Is it okay? So it could be if the challenge is still activated, you're finding more of that as well. But when you've got it twice, 3 times, or more than 3 times, the energy of that is stronger than maybe somebody who's got it once. Not always, because everybody's different, but that's potentially what it is. So let me know if that answers your question. And if not, I can say a few more words. And when you, with your soul destiny, that's like, underneath it all, what is your soul here to do? So you'll probably find, if you've got it also in the worldly goals and the soul destiny, the things, the aspects of the 9-9, you really find yourself drawn to. You are working towards them, or you keep getting those little intuitive nudges. So come on, come on, come on, do this, do this, do this. So that's how it would potentially play out. Fab. Right. I think I have definitely answered all the questions this time. Let me just double check in the chat. Cool. We are all good. We are all good. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to share. As I said, use hashtag SoulPlanMD, as in Soul Plan Marilyn Devonish, just so I can find it, at Marilyn Devonish me with your thoughts, one takeaway or something that maybe it's given you an aha moment. Would love to hear what those are. And if you want to win a soul plan reading, I will put those into the hat. Cool. Oh, hang on. My light is on again. Let me just have a quick look. Oh, thank you. Oh, brilliant. The software is £250. Thank you very much. Noted. See, I like to learn something new every day as well. So thank you. That is absolutely brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Oh, actually, I'm going to copy and paste, because you put the link in there. You're a star. I'm going to copy and paste the link, and I'm going to put it into my own document. Let me put it in my clipboard, just so I have it for future reference. Fab, because that's all on my list to check for next week. Because like, right, let's get ready. Give me the slides. Let's have the handout, blah, blah, blah. So I was going to check that next week, but you've saved me one job. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that. Wonderful. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your morning, your afternoon, your evening, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll see some of you shortly for the Soul Plan Challenge, and maybe even some of you for the Soul Plan Practitioner Training, if this is a skill that you'd like to use for yourself and also offer to your clients. All right. Thank you all. I'll catch you later.